Common Problems with Model Steam Engines, Part 5, the final episode of this compilation series. Carefully setting the position of the slide valve on the valve rod, then fitting the parts together, followed by a quick test run using compressed air. I turn the engine around and repeat the process on the other side. I find a problem with this second cylinder and I rectify it. After setting the valve timing on the second cylinder, I give it a longer test run on air. This is an aerial view of the valve in the steam chest. There is a fault on one of the ports. Not the one I'm showing at the moment, that one's fine. The other one, it has a step in it, and it's a casting error. I mentioned it in the last episode, but it doesn't seem to be too bad, and I think it will be fine. The main thing is, the rocking lever's perfect, no movement at all. And now I'm setting the valve timing. What I'm doing is rotating the flywheel, which in turn moves the connecting rod, which in turn moves the valve in the steam chest. Here's the basic process for setting the valve timing on a steam engine. Rotate the crankshaft, and by the way, only ever do it in one direction, never reverse the direction. Whichever direction you choose, it's best to choose the direction the engine is going to run in. You move the flywheel and the valve moves across the ports. It must move an equal amount at both ends, therefore uncovering an equal amount of the ports. Now this one is a little bit of a compromise because one of the ports is not right, but in the end I got it somewhere near. And the black and white parts of the video are just to show that all I'm doing here is removing the linkages to allow me to rotate the shaft, which is threaded and moves the valve back and forth a very small amount. I'm sure you get the idea. This is quite a tedious but then again at the same time a very satisfying job, because when you finally get the valve to move across the ports an equal amount at each end, you know that the engine is timed to perfection. And if you follow these directions by setting the eccentric as shown and setting the valve as shown, there is a good chance that your engine will actually work when you admit some compressed air to test it. This is of course a steam engine, and it will run much better on steam because steam is more dense than air. And as the energy of the steam is expended, it expands. There's some sort of a complex equation in there somewhere, I'm sure. It's time to stop stalling and messing around with the cylinder covers. So I finished the cylinder cover, refitted it to the engine, piped up the engine, and then admitted some air into the engine. And what happened? And not unsurprisingly, complete with its new gasket, the steam chest cover didn't leak and the engine ran very well. It's only running on one side of course, so it's dragging the other one with it, but I really am pleased with this. So now the engine is running better just on one side than it did originally running on both sides. The only problem is of course it is not self-starting. Working on the other side of the engine and tweaking the valve timing slightly. And this is a bit of a déjà vu. As I turn the engine round, it looks remarkably similar to the side that I've just done, except things are at the opposite end. So what I'm going to do is not be pedantic and go into great detail. I'm going to run most of the disassembly process in high speed like this. Just a quick thought, I didn't wake up one morning and find that I could rebuild steam engines. I used to read a lot, and I used to read the works of LBSC and Model Engineer for many years. LBSC wrote about steam engine building, mainly small steam locomotives. But he wrote about it in a non-technical manner. You can still buy bound volumes of Model Engineer from this period, the 40s and 50s I believe. They come up from time to time on eBay, and they're well worth looking at. You'll get a lot of information from there. Right, that's the engine dismantled, and I'm now in real time. This is a cylinder that I've just removed, and there's something very wrong with this cylinder. As I push the piston in and out with the original ring in place, well, apart from the gasket coming off, I should have taken that off first. But as I push the piston in and out, the cylinder feels really wrong. It feels ribbed. And I mean really badly ribbed. Now, with the cylinder cover removed, you can clearly see the ribbed effect of the cylinder. This is the worst I've ever seen. It's really grim. What I think I'll do is turn a light on it. That's better. Now you can see it. I'm really puzzled by this. The engine is generally very well machined, but the machinist must have had a day off when he did this. So now what? I do have a cylinder hone set, but it's not particularly good quality and these are very deep grooves. So instead I'm going to use one of these. I bought these a few years ago and I don't use them very often, but now and again they come in useful. A full set of expanding reamers. and they're all imperial, so this one is the one that's just under an inch up to an inch. And to use one of these, you introduce it to the bore of the cylinder or the hole that you want to ream, and by adjusting the position of the two collars on the reamer, the relative position of the cutting blades can be moved in or out. In this case I need to move them out slightly to take a series of very fine cuts down the cylinder. All I did was put the reamer in the lathe, turned the chuck by hand, and fed the cylinder onto the reamer. There is also a hole in the end of the reamer to take a centre to keep everything straight. It actually took 4 passes with the reamer, readjusting slightly after each cut, to completely remove the rib defect in the cylinder. And by fitting the silicone piston ring to the piston, the cylinder now has a really smooth finish and the piston slides in and out very easily. A very quick result to what could have been a disaster. So I also machined off a bit of the rear cylinder cover in the same way as I did with the first one, and then after thoroughly oiling every part of the cylinder and piston ring, I reassemble it. And once again I've already covered assembling the cylinders on the first half of this engine. I also set the position of the eccentric to be 90 degrees to the crank, just like the other side really, except of course that the eccentric was set to 90 degrees on the opposite side of the crank to the other one. If you get it wrong, don't worry, the engine won't turn over, but no damage will be done. I covered this in the last episode, so I'm not going to lay it on too thick, but once again, on this cylinder I'm also adjusting the position of the valve relative to the rotation of the crankshaft. And don't forget that the valve needs to uncover the ports an equal amount at both sides. I'll connect some compressed air, and the engine runs. I ran it for a while because there were 1 or 2 tight spots, and then all I had to do was minutely adjust the timing, just by moving one of the eccentrics a slight amount in the opposite direction, and the engine suddenly runs very smoothly, very sweetly, and sounds quite even. The main thing, of course, is that the engine is now mechanically correct. No ribbed cylinder, no floppy valve gear, and it runs as it's supposed to do. Thanks for watching this series, and I really hope you found it useful. I'll leave the engine running for a short while so that you can appreciate the poetry in motion that is a steam engine, even though it's running on compressed air. Please take the time to visit my Main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.